A very big hello, and my name is Federica Ree, and this is InspireTalk, broadcasted all around the world from Melbourne, Australia, but also throughout the world, depending on where you are. So whether it's morning, day, or afternoon, welcome to this amazing show. And I've got to honestly say I'm truly and deeply excited about tonight's guest, which I'll introduce in just a few moments. But just before we go any further with our guest, I'd like to formally introduce also our co-host, Ranil Rajapaksha. How you going, Ranil?
Hello, Fed. I'm equally as excited about today's show. Really, really excited, actually. Thanks very much, mate. It's going to be a good one. And we've got a few people tuning in, too. This will be great.
Absolutely. So, look, we do welcome questions to be sent through to our show, and you can submit your question by going to our Google Plus page, or to inspiretalk.net, or even to our Facebook page. So hopefully you'll be able to send some questions to our amazing guest. And without saying too much more, I'd like to formally introduce Sam Moran. How you doing, Sam?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Look, Sam, it's an absolute honour and an absolute privilege. I can't express once again how genuinely excited I am to have you on the show, and for you to share your time at this time of night, and also for you to share your story of success, I guess, to our listeners and to ourselves regarding your entrepreneurial journey. So just for the viewers, and I'm sure that a lot of people already know who you are, Sam, I'd like to sort of introduce you as the way you describe yourself online. And what I've got here is Sam Moran is the Managing Director of Snow Globe Productions, as well as the Creative Director of the Jungle Collective.
Yes.
He's also known for being the Yellow Wiggle for a 10-year period until 2012. Sam's background, expertise and passion is about providing entertainment to young audiences in the form of singing, dance and creative online content. Now, without a doubt, Sam is a serial entrepreneur, an Aussie icon within the kids' entertainment industry, and living proof of an individual with extraordinary talent. So once again, welcome, Sam. So perhaps for us to get started, I might hand it over to you, Ranil, and maybe you can send off your first question.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, thanks again, Sam. And as you know, we spoke off air. A lot of our viewers that are watching are business owners, startups, decision makers. And we'll be going through, I guess, we'd like to pick your brain and find out all the little golden nuggets that are in there that we can that you can share to all of us to make us better people. Look, before we actually go on, there was one thing that I did read in my research that I'm very, very interested to find out a little bit more about.
Okay.
And that's how you studied music and how it actually influences children. Obviously, that's the two combinations that your business is very successful on. Can you just expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. Well, my the way I started studying music education at Sydney Conservatorium of Music. So I was doing that with a classical voice major. So I was doing operatic singing. But yeah, so that background was in obviously music education and how you introduce music to children and the developmental benefits of music for children. So when I started studying there, I was the way that course was structured was the first year was very much early childhood music. Second year, was very much then primary school, and you just progressed through the different ages as the course went along. During that time, I also was doing some music theatre and came and got introduced to the Wiggles originally and started doing some work with them in that time as well. So there was a few little synergies there which were great, and obviously the part of the course I was most interested in was that early childhood music, and so that tied really nicely into working with the Wiggles and starting to work with them.
Yeah, and is that constantly also part of the content that you look to bring out all the time?
When we first started Play Along with Sam, that was probably the most important thing that I wanted to bring to it, was to go back to how I'd started and actually start bringing in more of that music education element. And that's something that even going forward from here, we're planning on building some other brands on the side of that, which are based in that preschool music education market. So that's certainly something that I'm passionate about, because there's so much research out there already that talks about the developmental benefits of introducing music to children in a structured way from a very young age. So and so to be able to do that, and from my other background, obviously doing children's entertainment, of being able to do those things in an entertaining way, and it sort of ties in all the elements that I've been working on for years with, and obviously with Nickelodeon now too. Their mantra is that it's the smart place to play, because children really do learn through play the most, especially preschool children. And so to be able to bring music education elements in that are clearly developmentally beneficial to children, and do that in an entertaining way through play, is really the glue that I try to make sure that is evident in everything that I do.
Yeah, awesome. Fed, after you, mate.
Yeah, look, I'd like to put an entrepreneurial spin to what you're saying, Sam, and you talk about inspiration, and I know as an entrepreneur myself that, you know, inspiration is the fuel to your car, and you need it obviously to be creative and to be innovative. When you started your career at whatever age, did you know that you were an entrepreneur, or, you know, is it now that you look back that you see your journey as an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
What's your insight on that?
It's one of those things where I've always, it's always been part of my psyche to think that way. But really, when it comes to, but at the same time, with being in the children's space, it's a hard marriage sometimes, thinking entrepreneurially through, but also having an audience that's children, because clearly we don't want to be marketing to children. I mean, that's you know, especially preschool children. It's not, you're really marketing to the parents in that sort of scope of things. When it comes to the children, you really got to be clear that you're being as sincere as possible in what they are going to get out of it, because really it's especially with preschool, and this is how I think with the parents too, is that it really is, and it really should be, all about what the child is going to get out of it, and not. And so, the best example I have is when I write music for children. Like, there's a lot of obviously music artists out there, and a lot of for adults as well, and they often write, the way they write songs is they'll write from their own experience, and then when other people are listening to that, they connect to that song because they feel a connection through a shared experience that, you know, it reminds them of something they happened. But with children, obviously, I'm an adult writing songs for children, and so it's flipped on its head in that way, that I'm not writing from my own experience. I'm really trying to see the world through their eyes and reflect how they see the world, so that then they can connect to that song. And I think that's something that I've come to learn over a long period of time. It's a trick. It's tricky for some people to get to be able to drop the adult part in their mind and realize, you know, how to see the world as children do, because quite often there is a temptation as an adult to try and preach, you know, try and be educational, you know, for children, and so by doing that, you're actually then still doing it from an adult point of view by trying to be educational. Whereas the only way to connect to preschool children is to really see how they see the world, and guide them through educational means that you understand, but really make it about them exploring the world and how they see it.
Look, I can understand and appreciate you've faced, you know, working with children being your target market, but at the same time perhaps running a business or running a venture with other people at the same time. When you started your career, and like any business startup, did you have, say, a 10-year plan in your mind about being a successful singer or being an entertainer, being a pioneer with what you do today? Was that in your mind going back from day one?
I think when I first came when I was with the Wiggles, it was I was being brought into the team, sort of thing. So it was kind of I treated that as more of a learning exercise and being part of it, not driving the ship by any means. And really, I was coming into a team that was pretty well established, and so I was able to learn a lot through just observation and through day-to-day, goings on. When after that, when starting Play Along Sam with Nick, I think like most businesses starting out, you have a general 5-year idea of where you want to get to. But of course, you think you're going to get there in 2 years, but but unfortunately, that never quite pans out as you always hope it will. But yes, generally, I did have a 5-year plan, and it certainly has been going along that path. Yes, the simple answer is yes. There is a general 5-year plan. It has to be obviously flexible within certain aspects of it, so that you obviously the market changes within that, and there's obviously things that come along. But generally speaking, from a structure, there was a plan for a general growth plan, I guess.
Sure. Look, I'd like to explore some of the other challenges you've faced along your journey, but before we do that, I'll just give Renil a bit of an opportunity to ask the next question. Renil?
Look, I'm really interested, Sam, in how you've actually translated transitioned from the Wiggles to your own brand, basically. And there's a lot of viewers out there that will be in the same boat. And you did this in you could say in a public forum, and you did it very well. I mean, congratulations on winning an ARIA last year, by the way. That's just amazing. And I'll get this right, you actually won an ARIA for Best Children's Album, and that was your first album that came out as well. So, bravo.
Well done, Sam.
And also, yeah. So basically, Sam Moran, the brand. How do you differentiate? How did you actually do that? Did you have professional advice? What advice could you?
I've got a really good management team that I've worked with for quite a long time, anyway, and so I already knew I had that to work from. So that was important that we had people around us, and so I did immediately start planning for a basically on the music education concept, and I started working on that concept pretty quickly. And it was when then Nickelodeon reached out to us with an idea that they had. They saw an opportunity to have me involved, and they had an idea of a music-based show that they wanted, but they didn't really have it thought out to too much detail. And so we kind of married the two ideas together and kind of worked on that. So I took a part of what the music education concept was and brought that into Play Along with Sam, which was mainly my character and how the music education elements would work in that. And they came from their visuals and things that they wanted to work through. So it's been that joint venture with Nickelodeon on the Nick Jr. show has been great, and when you're trying to marry two creative ideas, sometimes that can really jar. But we were really fortunate that it really married perfectly and has really worked on a creative level. They certainly have given me a lot of creative freedom to write what I want to write, and they have allowed me. Quite often, it's like, okay, they'll say we need a certain amount of songs. What songs would you like to write? And I'll just go away and come up with 15 songs or something that that I think children will connect to, and we film them. And then we did do a series of half-hour episodes, which were actually the basis of the songs from the album that won the ARIA. And that was creatively, that was a more interesting process because they were a lot longer episodes. They were scripted ahead of time, and so then the songs were a lot more planned out to fit the narrative of those episodes. So then I was having to write to even though I'd come up with the brief with Nickelodeon, then I was writing the songs to a brief, and that I found that a lot harder. But obviously the result ended up being even better. So it's one of those things. Sometimes what's more challenging to get across the line, if the framework is there to work from, even though it may be harder to build that, it's the results are more satisfactory, more worthwhile, I guess, at the end.
Sam, you've mentioned challenges a number of times, and I guess putting it into a focus around business once again, I guess I'm really interested to understand the challenge of working in partnership, working with other people, obviously having the same common goal, not just for the short term, but for the long haul. What experiences or insight can you share with us regarding probably one of the biggest challenges you've faced working as a team, and how do you get the team working in harmony, I guess? What's your 2 cents worth on that one?
That is the big question, isn't it? And that's and I'm sure for most entrepreneurs starting out, and most small business owners, that is a challenge that probably is always there. It's always trying to create that and trying to maintain that. More importantly, once you do get that. Do get it working and flowing, is maintaining it, making sure it continues to. Like I said, first of all, the management team I had was already established and was a relationship I already had, and I knew that was going to be there as a good support base. Within the scope of, I guess, the Sam brand, that there is actually quite a lot of different partnerships in different areas in that, and that is probably we've managed to really have great partnerships. We have like with home entertainment, we partner with Universal Home Video for that, and with Nickelodeon obviously for the TV show, for all the content we've partnered with them for that. For music, I've got MGM Distribution that we're partnered with to actually distribute the music. And then through live events, we do a lot of that ourselves through the management company. So there's actually a lot of different partnerships going on there. And we've managed to have really good relationships with all those partnerships and make sure that they work really well on their own. The part we always are trying to continue to make better is how they all work, how all those different areas combine to work seamlessly. And when you've got a lot of different partners that are looking at very specific areas of your business, it can be really tricky to try and smooth those partnerships across a larger brand. And that's something that we continue to iron out the kinks on that constantly, but we're getting there.
I'm imagining a lot of the logistical, operational challenges and issues that you face on a day-to-day, like we all do in business, would affect your creativity, I guess. How do you sort of manage your creative time versus running a business or a business venture at the same time? Time to just being in your own little space, or how does that work out?
Yeah, I do. I kind of do need to compartmentalize myself a little bit, and I do spend probably in my year we do a lot of we kind of over the last few years it's become clear of a certain regular I guess a regular timetable of events of what those of what our partners are looking for and when throughout the year. So we are able to now schedule our year around that, and so I've started scheduling creative time ahead of time that I can just put myself away and write songs and write scripts and things, and get those to a point that I'm to at least to a 75% finished level, so that I can so that when the business partners come in and say, okay, we want to film some more, or we got a new a new CD that's got to come out by this date, or things like that, a lot of the creative work's done already, and I can then and so that then the business hat comes on, and I try to so that all I have to do is kind of just finish off those creative things. But yeah, it's definitely a wearing different hats at different times, and but like I said, it's been something that through the last few years I've been able to timetable a bit and find how to do that.
Sure. Thanks for sharing that, Sam. Look, we've got a few questions actually coming through from the audience, but before we get on to those, maybe Renil, you might have another question for Sam.
Look, Sam, I do. Well, we've got quite a few questions coming through, actually. If I can, talking about hats, can I get you to put on your marketing hat?
Yes, marketing hat is on.
Awesome. Now, your target market.
Yes.
So you mentioned that it's parents, but it's also the network. It's actually the preschoolers. Or did you mention well, how old are they, by the way, your real target?
My target audience is probably up to 6.
Up to 6.
Yeah.
So how do you keep everybody happy? I mean, I know it's a juggling act, and I know it's challenging. What I'm really interested as a second part of that question is also the feedback. How do you actually find out what you're doing is actually working? Do you have a focus group? Is it just the suits telling you what to do versus trying to find the middle ground?
This is an interesting one, because in Wiggles days there was never focus groups or anything, and they were kind of really, without going into too much detail of that, but the Wiggles kind of really didn't trust research groups. They felt like they understood their audience more than research groups, because it's kind of. However, now I work with Nickelodeon, who are very heavily based in, and have always been heavily based in research and focus groups. So things like shows like Dora the Explorer and Blue's Clues and things actually came out of research-based things. So and obviously Dora has been a very hugely successful brand. So I've come to see the benefits in both sides and both approaches over that time. I don't personally use focus groups as much, but I get a lot of that feedback through Nickelodeon from when they do those things. I find my focus really is that I aim everything I do at the children, and it's all about what they will get out of it, and what they are, from an entertainment point of view, and also from an education point of view. And even when I'm writing a song, quite often I might find myself actually winding the song back a little bit, that I've gone a little bit too adult, because and realizing that I'm becoming a bit self-indulgent in that, just from a musician point of view. Getting carried away with songwriting and just being a little self-indulgent, then realizing that the child, what I've just done, like having a 2-minute guitar solo in a song, is pretty self-indulgent. It doesn't really involve the child listening to that. They're not really appreciating your shredding in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's it.
I've got a question, one of my favourite questions that's come through is how important is inspiration and education with regards to using that as a way of developing future generation of children, so and the impact that has on society overall in the long term. So inspiration and education for children.
Look, I think that's hugely important, and I bring it back to what I was just talking about too, but I still try, and everything I do is about what is in it for the child in the short term as well, and because obviously they are responding to that. They have quite short attention spans, and so it's about what they are getting out of it in that short term. And if you're able to do build that from that point of view, but still have educationally developmental benefits in there, then it has that longer term benefit also. Even because things like best way of explaining it is probably with music education elements that I've talked about in the past, is that music has been shown research-wise to be one of the very few things in preschoolers that operates all the learning centers of the brain simultaneously. So even just singing a song and singing it and having a child sing it back, they're using the language part of their brain, using the mathematical part of their brain. If you're clapping along to a song, you're using the mathematical part of your brain to do for rhythm. If you're dancing to the song, you're learning, you're operating gross motor skills, and just tapping onto a drum is using fine motor skills. All these things, if just operating within one song, you're connecting memory and learning lyrics and things like that. You connect and you're creating pathways between all those different areas of the brain. So, which is why, and doing those things in preschool has been shown to have lasting effects in all sorts of areas for children in the longer term. And so, but I think the question was talking about inspiration as well, and is really kind of, and I think music really does have a social benefit to it as well. That really playing music together and enjoying music together and dancing along with each other inspires social benefits in that as well with children and going to live events. So it's certainly something that I try to think about when I'm doing all these things, but really they are longer term benefits of the short term benefits that I'm immediately wanting a child to feel like they're engaged in, because that's what it comes down to. The child has to be engaged on a short-term thing first and foremost, and then you can build longer-term things from that engagement.
Look, it's really interesting what you're saying. There's obviously a science behind that type of entertainment, and obviously through generations we've learnt what works for children more than, say, decades ago, where it was all about inspiration and creativity, like the Disney cartoons and so forth. And I'm a big fan of Disney and Warner Brothers. But I guess back then, the amount of education that went on from a Disney show probably does not necessarily match up to what we see nowadays on TV in terms of the good quality kids entertainment shows. So definitely the science has played a big part. So thanks, Sam. So Renil, do you have a question from the public, or I've got quite a few here myself, but I'll give you a chance.
I've got one, Sam, that I think will lead into the question that came through, and
okay.
It's quite obvious, and it's quite empowering to see you have so much passion when it comes to the education side of things, with kids. I think it's amazing, and it's obviously that you found your purpose. And you've managed to marry it with a business, which you can wake up every day and try and inspire as many children as possible. I think it's beautiful. The question that we had was: has there been an experience on stage that has moved you?
Oh, yeah, every day, every time I do a show.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's. Getting up on stage in front of a crowd of smiling preschoolers is a moving experience in itself. Because really, it doesn't matter how bad your day is going on. If you get out there and you see a sea of children that are singing along and dancing along to your music that you've written, it's very hard to have a bad day in that instant. You kind of, and you realise that that's the only show they're going to see. You might be doing a whole week of shows, or like several shows in a day, and they're physically demanding. But you realise that these children that are there are only going to see that one show. Yeah. So just on that level, it's quite it is emotional. But then there's obviously there's very funny moments on stage too. I try to involve the audience as much as possible in the show because the children create their own comedy. You know, I think it was one part of one show I was asking what, you know, children's favourite foods were, and I was asking around, and if you ask long enough, you always get a funny answer. So I do remember, you know, there's the usual, my favourite food's apple, my favourite food's this. And then there was another child that said, my favourite food is sherbet, and Mummy's got some in the pack. And the thing is, those moments then are comedy for the parents because they know children say these things all the time, and and so to share that with the room of parents, then the parents think it's hilarious. So there's lots of moments like that, the very funny moments. But there's also moments where you go, like I visit children's hospitals and as well, and so to realise there was one time we went and visited. Children's hospital. We were talking. We were talking to this one child for a while, and he was very animated and happy to talk. And we left the room and was talking. And after we were leaving the ward, and we were talking to the nurses, and they said, we said to him, oh, you know, that one child was, you know, really animated, really into it, and they just stopped aghast, and they were like, that child hasn't spoken in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's amazing. That is
I think
amazing.
on that, I've got to quickly confess that probably one of the reasons why I contacted you, Sam, for this interview, and you probably remember this, was because my son used to suffer chronic asthma, and for the first 5 years he would really not get out of bed unless there was the Wiggles on TV, but particularly, not just the Wiggles, you, Sam, and not only did he have all the collection, he pretty much acquired all the necessary collateral that showed you, Sam, in your yellow outfit. So for that reason, I made my son's day when I announced that I'll be interviewing you. But in terms of inspiring children and obviously having an impact on their lives, I can totally relate to that on a personal level. So thank you. I'm just conscious of time. I realise at the same time you've got other things to do tonight, Sam.
All good. I'm enjoying it.
Great. One thing we like to do on this show is share the golden nuggets to our audiences, and I've noted a number of key points that you've raised, and maybe for me personally it's more of an entrepreneurial spin, or perhaps how does an aspiring entrepreneur or singer or entertainer get into the industry. And my top favourite 5 points that I've written down here is always have passion with what you do, learn from your experts and be guided with regards to planning, schedule creative time, and perform necessary market research to obviously appeal to the target market. So hopefully they will be good points for the audience to take away. Perhaps I'll give Ranil a chance to ask one last question, and perhaps also wrap up with regards to forthcoming events and other shows. So Ranil, on to you, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, thanks again for your time, Sam, and thanks for also sharing a lot of deep insights. I think we've covered a lot in 33 minutes, so thank you very, very much. We've got a whole heap of questions, by the way, but we don't.
We'll fire away. I will say one thing in addition to what, because I've recently had a couple of people ask me about they wanted to start in children's music and didn't know how to as well. And I think the simple answer is that I think YouTube is an excellent place to start practicing those things. And if you write children's songs or you want to practice how to engage to a child through a screen, I think it's a perfect way to start a YouTube channel and just do it and follow the feedback that there is an audience out there. That there is your market research right there. Is a whole thousands, millions of people that could have access to your videos, and that they will give you that feedback, and just follow that feedback and continue to make and use it to make new stuff, and just see where it takes you. And then that would be if I was starting out from absolute scratch now, that's certainly where I think you should be using as your market research tool.
Yeah, good advice. And also, I guess, just to add to that is to have a purpose. I guess,
well, obviously, you've got to be passionate about it anyway to start down that path. But from a research point of view, and also just to be able to have some content out there that really can show to people as well, like some of the best content that you come up with as well. You'll have it there, and people will be able to see you can see what's engaging with people, but if you're trying to build partnerships with businesses as well, it's clear what videos are then what's engaging with people as well.
That's awesome. Great advice. Thank you so much, Sam. Look, we'll probably wrap up now. I know you got shows, you got albums, you're making music, you're on TV, you're doing a whole bunch of stuff, so we won't take up much of your time. Thanks so much, by the way. Now, just for our viewers, just to let you know, we've got a couple of really good people coming up soon. We've got Janine Ellis this Thursday, September 8th at 1 o'clock, and we've also got Christina Carlson, who's the owner of Kiki K, and she's on the 20th of September at 8 o'clock. So a couple of really good shows coming up. And yeah, I'd just like to say, yeah, Sam, it was a real inspiration to have a chat to you. So thank you very much. We'd love to probably have you on sometime in the future again. I think there's a lot more we can discuss. But yeah, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sam, on a personal note, thank you. Just talking to you, your humility, your in-depth knowledge and wisdom in the entertainment industry is surely much appreciated to our audiences and to me personally. So once again, thank you. And we'll wrap up in just a few moments. So goodbye, audience, and goodbye, Sam. Thank you.
See you guys.